Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating and, frankly, controversial ideas in family law. It's a legal concept that feels like it's been pulled straight out of a history book.
So let me start with a question that sounds completely wild in this day and age. Can a court actually legally order you to go back and live with your spouse after you've already left them? And the answer, believe it or not, is yes.
This power has a very formal name, Restitution of Conjugal Rights. And this isn't just some old dusty idea that's never used. It's a real legal tool that one spouse can use against the other. So what exactly is it?
All right, so let's get into what this thing actually is. What is a court ordering someone to do and why?
Okay, so here's the breakdown. It's a court order that basically tells a spouse who has left the marriage, or in legal terms, withdrawn from the society of the other, that they have to come back. But there's a huge catch. It only applies if they left without a reasonable excuse. Now, you're probably wondering, where on earth did a law like this come from?
To really get this, we have to travel back in time to feudal England, where this whole thing started. And let me tell you, its history is, well, it's pretty unsettling. You can actually trace the evolution of this law right here. It starts way back in the religious courts of feudal England, where if you disobeyed an order like this, you could literally be excommunicated. Fast forward to 1813, and the punishment gets downgraded to contempt of court. Then, in 1884, they took away the power to physically force someone back, but refusing to return could be used as a reason for legal separation. Finally, in 1970, England just scrapped the whole thing, calling it an anachronism. So, why did it even exist to begin with?
This quote right here, it cuts right to the bone. The law comes from a time when marriage was viewed as a property deal. The wife was legally considered part of a man's possessions, his chattels, no different than his livestock. The whole idea was that if your property ran away, you had the right to get it back. It's a shocking foundation for any modern law.
So you hear that England got rid of this law over 50 years ago, calling it a relic of the past, and you think, okay, that's the end of that story. Well, not quite.
And this is the major twist. This very same law was brought to India during the British colonial era. And even though its home country threw it out, it's still on the books in India today. It's still legally enforceable.
And look, this isn't some forgotten clause in an obscure law. It's right there, across almost all the major personal laws in India. It's in the Hindu Marriage Act, the laws for Christian and Parsi marriages, even for civil marriages. It also exists under general law for Muslims. This thing is woven deep into the country's legal fabric.
Okay, so how does this play out in a real courtroom? What do you actually have to prove to get a judge to give an order like this?
A court will look at 4 key things. First, did one spouse actually leave the other? That's step 1. Second, and this is the big one, did they leave without a good reason, a reasonable excuse? Third, is the person asking for the order telling the truth? And finally, is there any other legal issue that would stop the court from saying yes? Now, here's a really critical detail. The spouse who filed the petition just has to show that the other person left. That's it. After that, the tables turn. It's up to the person who left to stand up in court and prove they had a good enough reason to leave. So, what counts as a reasonable excuse? Well, the courts have seen all sorts of things. Obviously, anything that would be grounds for divorce, like cruelty, works. But it also includes stuff like being falsely accused of cheating, a husband taking a second wife, or even constant nagging from in-laws. There was even a famous case where a husband trying to force his vegetarian wife to eat meat was considered a perfectly reasonable excuse for her to leave. So that brings us to the big debate happening right now. Is this law a useful tool to help save marriages, or is it just a way to oppress people? Even the legal world can't agree. On one side, you have some very harsh critics. This quote from a judge calls the law a barbarous remedy, even comparing it to tyranny and slavery. The argument here is that forcing someone to live with a person they don't want to live with is a violation of their basic human dignity and freedom. But then you have the other side of the coin. India's Supreme Court has actually defended the law. They argue that its purpose isn't to be tyrannical, but to preserve the institution of marriage. The idea is that the order acts as a chance for reconciliation, a way to encourage a couple to work things out instead of just heading straight for divorce. And this isn't just a theoretical debate, it's a real legal battle. The law's constitutionality has been challenged again and again. Opponents say it violates fundamental rights like the right to privacy and personal autonomy. I mean, can the government really force 2 people to live together? It's a huge question that pits the idea of marriage against the idea of individual liberty.
So that's where we stand. We have a law that was born in feudal times based on the idea that one person could own another, and it's still alive in the 21st century. Which leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Does a remedy from a past that looks so different from our present really have any place in our future?